decision making in the boardroom has always been this bizarre concept of it. Sometimes it's instinctive, but mostly it needs to be evidence-based.
And we know that there's consumers, there's people, there's governments and corporations, but we know that this corporate decision making predominantly is not taking us anywhere out of this crisis. You know, we're in a crisis and getting worse. Is that a limitation of being human?
There has been a tremendous ease with the employees, so that first of all, they don't have to do multiple work tasks, which they may have done before. It eases their job, it makes it faster, it makes it more relevant and more better for them. So they enjoy the work much better in that sense. But then it's also makes they work much more meaningful, because we ease in the processes in every different departments.
You know, I think there's a lot of immense opportunities. This is a conversation that's entering every corporate environment that I can imagine right now. I just got back from our corporate innovation event, and it was the spotlight of ours, but it's the spotlight of many. Everyone is talking about it, and there's a lot of disruption happening. I think that it's quite exciting, actually, because the values that we hope to embed within AI, those of ethics and belonging and inclusion, are the same conversations that organizations have talked about for a long time, but some of them act on it and others don't.
In answer to that question, we're not asking about impact. You know, we're not asking if we're laying off people and having AI, who's buying the product? You know, because people have to earn money or have to have some kind of income to be able to spend that money to buy consumer products. But we're also not thinking about the impact people, the planet, the environment. We're thinking in very for-profit terms instead of what's the purpose of the profit.
I think that at first it's going to be informed decision-making before we give AI the full reins. I think that's actually good, because the decisions could be biased and those harms could be drastic if we give the power to an entity to make them for us on our behalf, specifically if the opportunity is to implement the change that they make. That's really scary, or could be very scary, if we give them access to systems and we let them control it, knowing that it's really kind of a black box at the moment, right? Like, these models are very complicated, and the number of permutations and making that decision is so complex that we can't comprehend it ourselves really that well.
To be able to count basically your natural resource. Vincent was talking about insects that were not enough protected. We know, for example, that 75% of the insects are not a protected species for now. So it will be an issue in the future if we're not able to flag it. But then the next question is how many insects we have and how can we report on that? And that's where AI and data can help.
The role of AI is that when there is a crisis and there is urgency, boards often can become, I've used this term before, collusions of mediocrity. They procrastinate, they delay, they're often waiting for the report. The report leads to another report, but here, literally, you can ram the data down their throats and there's no place to run.
It's countries like Bhutan who talk about going beyond GDP, maybe 800,000 people, their citizens. There's the city of Vancouver that I spoke to in preparing for this, maybe 600,000 people in central Vancouver. And then there's Google, and Google must have 130, 150,000 people themselves. So it's part of this change of mindset. You think that Google's forgotten that maybe the care of its employees is and should be its number one priority. And if so, would it treat them more like citizens, like you're treating your citizens?
When we look at each other as humans, just like you said, and being kind to each other in a way that we need to be more inclusive, also as an employee there within the team. When we come from that perspective and that kind of attitude, the open-mindedness of looking how we can benefit from each other's, how we can leverage everything when we are doing that together.
When we make decisions that are based in a strong inner framework, I keep going back to it, but it's really true. Like, if we make decisions that are better for each other and show up in the way that we want to be treated, then I think that things will end up working out well for us. But I think that there's some things that some bad actors want to try to embed in AI systems to add guardrails, and that can result in bias too and harm too to large groups of people when you try to add guardrails to make ethical decisions, because you can't replace conscientiousness yet with these systems.
What are the principles for safety and use of AI, and how we look at that point of risk? And that is where we can intervene and program against bad actors, but also against bias, and make sure that we're looking at those things from an equitable standpoint for all of humanity, and also looking at them from the point of view that you are regulating that, but regulating and looking at human values. And that's something that we're going to have to agree on as AI is going to expand and grow exponentially and quicker than humans are used to coping with.
I travel the world as a nomad. I often want to immerse myself in the culture, and having like the ability to speak other languages proficiently could make me closer to that reality of truly immersing myself in a culture in a way that I couldn't do easily before. And that's a creative use of technology to enable human connection. I think that's really beautiful. And that's what I hope like these conversations inspire people to use these solutions in brilliant ways that are beautiful at the end of the day, because the future is what we make of it and what we dream of.